My name is Austen Menges, and I've been a pro editor for over 20 years with a focus on broadcast TV commercials. And today, this video is going to be a little bit different than my normal videos. I just turned my camera on, we're going to have a little talk, just you and me, and I'm going to answer a question that's come up over and over and over again that I've been ignoring for about the last 16 months since I started this channel. And that question is, how much should I be charging as a video editor? And this is a pretty loaded question, and I see a lot of YouTube videos with thumbnails that are like, let me tell you how much I made in the past month, in all different niches, and it's no different in editing. And at first, I was really put off by this because I was always taught you don't talk about what you make. Maybe you were too, but I also understand the curiosity of wanting to know how much people are making. And then also, sometimes when you're starting out or you're in the middle of your career, you just don't know what to compare yourself to or what to ask for. So I am not going to tell you how much I make, except at the end, I'm going to reveal how much I made on one particular project, which might be very interesting to you. But my goal for this video is to give you some general guidelines, but more so to explain a different way to think about charging as an editor that I think could be really helpful to you, kind of a new framework. So let's start by talking about some union rates for high-end editors, because you can find that information online. And when I looked it up, I noticed that for a film and TV editor, kind of the standard going rate was $3,000 to $4,000 per week. Now, that may sound like a lot to you, it may sound like a little to you, and obviously the big caveat here is that there's a huge range for what editors can make. Obviously, the editor who's cutting the next Avengers movie has probably negotiated a higher rate, and an editor who's maybe editing a low-budget indie movie probably has a lower rate. But in my experience, editors I know who are making a living at editing, whether they are editing films or TV or commercials, are probably sort of in that range. That's kind of when you're doing well at your craft, you've been doing it for a while, and that's sort of how you can make a good living as an editor. But here's how I want you to think about how to get to that level. I think when you ask how much should I charge as an editor, or you automatically think I should be charging more as an editor, that's really focused on you. What I want you to do is focus on your client and ask yourself this question: why are they hiring an editor? They're hiring an editor because whatever they're making is making them a certain amount of money, right? TV shows have advertisers, and that's how they make money. So they have a budget to spend on the TV show, or the feature film's going to do well at the box office, so that's how they make money. So then that gives them a budget to spend on a crew and an editor to make that movie, because they're going to make a return on their investment. So at the end of the day, I want you to start top down. So then we talk budgets. So instead of asking the question, oh, I should charge more, or they're not paying me enough, oh, I got to raise my rate, you have to think about the budgets. So start with, this person I'm going to edit for has to make money, and then they're willing to spend a certain amount of money on their project, which has to be lower than the amount of money they're going to make back. And then a portion of that budget is going to go to you, the editor. So let me give you a hypothetical here. Let's talk about commercials. That's what I'm familiar with. Let's say there's $100,000 budget commercial. Well, why do commercials have $100,000 budgets and most YouTube creators have a $0 budget or $1,000 budget? Well, it's because the commercial is going to make a return on investment. They're going to use it in an advertising campaign, and they're going to sell more product. Therefore, it's worthy of a higher budget. So that's why it has a higher budget. Now, of that $100,000, how much is spent on post-production? Well, in my experience, it's around 20%. So $20,000 is spent on post-production, let's say in this hypothetical situation. Now, how much of that goes to the editor? Well, that depends. Although I will say the editor is the person probably putting in the most hours in general on a commercial production. You're going through all the organizing, all the rough cut stage, the fine tuning, maybe the online editing. So I would say the editor is going to capture a lot of that budget. maybe let's say half, 50% on average. And again, this is hypothetical. And the rest would go to color correction and sound mixing, motion graphics, visual effects, etc., etc. So let's say a $100,000 budget of a commercial because that client thinks by airing this commercial, they're going to make 5x their money. And then of that 100,000, 20% goes to post-production, and of that 20%, half goes to the editor. So that's $10,000 to edit a commercial. That's how you get to the higher level. So let's take the YouTube example and do the same calculation. So let's say an average YouTuber has $1,000 to spend on their video because they believe it's going to get X number of views and that video is going to make $5,000 for them. Well, they spent $1,000 on their video. Let's say 20% of that goes to the editor. That is $200. And let's say in this case, the editor does it all because there's really no budget to parse it out and have a team when you only have $200. So the editor then does the color, does the motion graphics, does the sound mix, does all the exporting and delivery. And so they are editing videos for $200. And instead of getting upset that that's where you're at, or getting upset with the YouTuber, or just thinking you can, well, I want to charge $3,000 a week for these YouTube videos I'm editing. Well, you can't because the budget doesn't support it because the profits don't support that budget. So I hope that was helpful. And here's how I want you to think. You have to have a goal instead of raising your rate or thinking about charging more. You have to think about creating projects, working on projects that are at a higher level. Because once you start working on projects that are at a higher level, you can then use them on your demo reel and be considered for those actual projects. And one great way to do that, which I know this is also counterintuitive advice, is to work on projects for free. But only do it if the collaborator you're choosing to work with, has potential to work on paid projects, not just free projects, and then do it if it raises the level of your editing so that you can use that on your demo reel to capture some of these higher budget jobs. For instance, let's say there was a short film opportunity you had been editing mostly YouTube videos, and you were editing them in that $200 range. So most of the stuff on your demo reel was $200 YouTube videos, and there's a great director and they have a short film, and they got an extremely talented DP on board, and this director's going places, he's going to do commercials. Well, what if you sign up to edit that for free? I know a lot of YouTube advice talks about, get paid what you're worth, don't work for free. But in this case, it's going to help you because the finished short film ideally is going to be this great piece of marketing for you, and it raises your game so that when another job comes up for a high budget short film that pays, or possibly a commercial with that same director, the relationship, you might have a chance at it. And that brings me to revealing what I got paid on a recent project. One of the most fun projects I've done and fulfilling projects I've done lately is this short film Treasure Imagination with my dear friend director Scott Rice, who's been on the channel many times. And I'm here to reveal the bombshell that I was paid $0 to edit Treasure Imagination. It was a labor of love, and it was a virtual production, and the crew that was on board was incredible. Obviously, Scott's incredible. I know he's going to create something awesome. I do commercials most of the time. I have a passion for narrative, and I wanted to work on a narrative. The DP, there were two DPs, co-DPs, David Wells and Jimmy Lindsay, and Jimmy Lindsay's American Society of Cinematographers, ASC. He shot the pilot for Veep and just shot FUBAR, did second unit on Ghostbusters. Obviously, it was Ari Alexa with all the coolest stuff. So that's the big reveal. So I've been in this 20 years, and I occasionally take on projects for free that scratch a creative itch, and then obviously will lead to more opportunities. I use Treasure Imagination in my course. So many benefits of working on that movie. And so this is kind of, in a nutshell, in a quick unedited video, how I think about charging, how I think about getting paid, and maybe this is a little bit different way to think about it that you hadn't thought about it before as you think about where the budgets come from, how to really think about charging, and starting kind of from a top-down approach, and then maybe even finding some great relationships to build, some great projects to work on for free to build your reel so that you can start moving up to that level of pay where you can create a nice, comfortable lifestyle for yourself. So, if you actually want some editing advice, which this video wasn't really about, you should download my free editing guide. Thousands of people have downloaded it and it's really helped them. It has my 5 editing criteria, and I think you'll really like that. Download it at the link below. And if you enjoyed this video, you should watch this one next. Happy editing.